Hi there, welcome back here, guys. In last lecture, we have started talking about interfaces and the types. So there are two different ways how you can specify the structure of your data, either with the interface or with a type. They are very similar. Almost everything what you can do with the interface, you can also do with a type. I'll write here a few of the comments, so you can also write them down so you get this idea straight to your head. Okay, so we can write here. In the Typescript, they are actually recommending interfaces over type aliases when it's possible. Okay, so Typescript itself recommending to use interfaces. Okay, so Typescript recommends to use interface over types, but don't get me wrong, there is very special place for types, and it will be using actually types quite a lot. Okay, so don't mind this recommendation. We'll be using interfaces and as well the types. Okay, so TS recommend to use interfaces over types when possible. Okay, that's important, when possible. Okay, they are very similar. So they're very similar. All the features are interchangeable. And then why we should use the interfaces? Okay, I'll write here. Interfaces describe data structure in a more natural way. So when you want to describe the objects or a data that you will be working as your business objects with, or for example, in your Next.js application. So I will describe this as an interface. So when I will working with the huge objects, I would like to define them rather as an interface. Okay, so describe data structures in a more natural way. So describing objects, for example, describing objects. For example, if here interface person. So when I'm describing the person structure, I would use interface. If I would have to create shipment data type, I would use interface. If I would have orders, for example, I would use interface, and so on. So this describe the data structure in more natural way, and describing objects, I am usually choosing interfaces over the types. Okay, I will write under this first comment. Now the types. When we'll use the types. For example, we'll use the types when you need to create a type aliases. So what the type alias? First, let's write here type aliases. Okay, for example, when I would like to create an alias for a type string, so I will define here type, I will call it data, and I will assign here string. This you cannot do with the interface. So now I have just created alias for a string, and I can use the data as the string. Okay, so I can define here a name will be data, and this alias for a string, so I can still use the name in the function log person info, so I can call it with the name here, even though it's a data type here as I'm defining here. Okay, because data is an alias for a string type. So data aliases, maybe you don't find it very useful right now, but later you will see it. So it's very, very useful to create a type aliases, especially when you will be working with the generic types. Okay, so that's the type alias. The types are better for describing functions. Okay, so let's write here to describe a function types, to describe functions, function types, to describe functions. Okay, sometimes parameters of the functions, but to describe the functions overall. Okay, so here we have it. There are much more differences, guys, in the syntax and also in the way how you will use the types and interfaces, but I would like to get into these differences as we will progress with the lectures and as we'll see the actual examples where we can use the types and where we can use interfaces. For now, just these two comments, describe data structure in more natural way, describing objects such as shipment, orders, and so on, that you have in your natural world, in everyday life. And the type aliases we'll use for this type of data as the function types, for example. I will show the function types in the next lecture. Or type aliases, where you can alias your primitive types or all other types under a different name, and then you can use it, such as data is an alias for a type string. All right, that should be it for this one. Let's continue with function types in the next lecture. Cheers.